And we are recording. Welcome to Conserve Your Energy. Welcome to Conserve Your Energy. And this was a special one right here. This is a really special one. I told y'all I have some fantastic friends. I have some fantastic associates, people that I love, and I'm so excited to be able to share them with you. And this one individual right here, Mr. Raheem Kashon. Did I say it right?
Yes, sir. You did.
Okay. This is my brother right here, and if there's anything you know about an opinionated individual, is that the worst thing you can do is agree with everything that they say. That's the worst thing you can do. And so look, I've been looking for a reason to wear this shirt. This is actually the first time I've ever worn this shirt.
You look
Um,
good.
Thank you, sir. I even got some special coconut water for today. And
Okay.
and, and I got some sparkling water from straight from France called Bonneval. So this is
Okay.
special. And
Okay.
I got some cool water cologne. I don't know if you can see it there, but it's a classic, and this is for a classic individual. So I'm gonna spray a little bit of this on.
All
Yeah.
right. Get the move. Get into the energy.
Get into the energy. Get into the energy. My brother, how have you been? How have you been, first of all?
you know, Life has been interesting lately. A lot of transitions, two car accidents in a week.
When did that
And
transpire?
The first one was on the 26th of March, and then the second one was on like the week following that next week. So what's that, like the 4th or 5th of April, something like that. Um, and it's interesting, like relationship transitions. The school that I'm currently studying at to get my master's is closing after this semester due to like financial issues, and so it's like a lot of endings and just like a lot of transitions, a lot of pivots. And at one point, it was like a lot of anxiety going on, a lot of like fear, like a lot of fear was being um, triggered, which was creating a lot of anxiety for me. Um, because a lot of times, whenever we're going through transitions like that, our nervous systems experience it as like a life threat. Like, in our conscious mind, we know like it's not like that, but our bodies experience it that way. So it was a lot of anxiety. But then there was a moment of, like where it just felt like that I was being like set up for like some really beautiful abundance to come in. I got a lot more for my car than what I thought I
Okay.
would.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I had when I paid my car off, I didn't go down to like just regular liability. I kind of customized it, and one of the things that I kept, I remember Spirit told me to keep it, and one of the coverages that I kept kicked in, and so then that was the only reason, literally the only reason why I got a payback for the car, and so that was also a message that like I'm being taken care of. And I had a birthday party. I didn't know how I was going to get the money for it, but I actually just scheduled it, and I knew something was going to come through, and I did a ritual around it, and I was like, I don't know how this money's going to come through, but I'm sure it's going to come through. And literally, because of the car accident, like the money came through. And so I'm just being really reminded that like even what could be seen as our calamities and tragedies sets us up a lot of times to be supported and taken care of. So
And so you said something earlier in the conversation in regard to um, something that you were dealing with emotional. Are you suggesting that our emotional trials that we deal with have just as much of an impact on us physically as, say, we actually getting hurt, like going out there and someone actually hitting us, like it has the same impact on us?
absolutely. Well, there are a lot of biological bases for our behavior and our experience, right? So, like, our nervous system is always on, always scanning for danger. Even when we sleep, like a lot of times we can wake up already like alarmed about something. That's because our nervous system has already decided that something's dangerous, right? Or like, let's say, for instance, you in my presence and you like, let's say you reach for something, but you get too close to my face and I like flinch, right? That's my nervous system is like on, like ready to protect me. And so, of course, like there's research to support that prolonged exposure to certain types of stresses and traumatic events literally has a physiological impact on our bodies. It of course like triggers inflammation, which then compromises our immune system, a lot of our organs, causes us to have like diseases, you know. And so absolutely, man, like the way that we're perceiving our perception and our neuroception, what's called our neuroception again, which is before our perception, affects the ways that our bodies are developing, and how our bodies, our defenses, how successful they are at quelling different diseases that are coming up. I mean, there's research that suggests that our bodies kill off about 3 or 4 cancerous cells every day, right? But if we're stressed, we're not sleeping well, we're drinking, we're like doing things that suppress our immune system, then that gives those cells, the growth conditions. You know what I'm saying? So,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. So I think we kind of jumped ahead because there's so much to you, and these are the kind of conversations that we have fairly regularly. And prior, I asked you, send me a couple bullet points, send me some things that you thought would kind of encompass the individual that you are, and you sent me like boom, 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 boom. And so I want to start with some of that because I want people to really understand who you are and the things that are really important to you.
Okay.
One of the hot button issues of today is social construction. Okay. Everyone is opinionated about social construction. You've done the research, so I'd like you to briefly kind of give me an overview of what social construction means to you. To me, it like refers to the idea that there's aspects of our reality that are inherently fixed or objective, but then our minds can kind of create or shape or maintain ideas based upon our personal experiences. What does social construction mean to you?
Okay. Social construction is basically just the idea that there are people, organizations, principalities, energy sources, whatever, that are producing conditions that then influence human development in a specific way. So they're literally like, kind of like, it's almost like if you think of it as a river, right? The river follows the bank, it follows the earth, right? And so
Hmm.
there are people who are literally constructing the earth so that the river flows a certain way. And so social construction could be social construction is really linked to developmental ideology, right? And so developmental ideology is typically like there is a certain place that the society that people who have the power to influence society in a certain way want the society to arrive at or end up at, or certain points that it at least wants it to arrive at, right? Maybe not end up at, because evolution may be like, ever unfolding and all that stuff. So it may not be necessarily a destination, but at least points. And so then it's like, well, if I can plant this seed in the 30s, then I can get a certain result in the 70s. So if I plant some seeds in 1992, then I can get some result. I could possibly reap the benefits in 2033, right? But it's like we are, as lay people, as everyday people, are being influenced and being exposed to a lot of different constructs and ideas that again are hopefully moving us in a specific direction, maybe priming us, grooming us. Some people use those words. I mean, I know those words are really loaded because they're associated with certain types of um, um, experiences, but we may be being primed to accept certain ideas and ideologies, by things being planted, and certain ideas being supplanted, because the human psyche is very suggestible, and one of the hallmark features of the human psyche is adaptability and its malleability. Like it tries to find ways to make sense of and to become comfortable with experience, right? Because nobody wants to just be continually uncomfortable. So even if something is uncomfortable at first, our brain tries to find ways to adapt to it to make it comfortable, or at least manageable.
Even in
And
even in
so
corporate America, Even well, what I was going to say was even in corporate America, one of the number one areas in which money is invested is in psychology, more so
Yeah.
than, yeah, it's in understanding people. There are certain people that are going to work within the confines and parameters that you set for them, and you have to understand that these are the people that are going to be there for you for the long term, and so you can kind of base your future on these certain types of mindsets as opposed to these people over here might come and stay for a year or two, then they're gonna be out of here. So you have to kind of understand who you're dealing with when it comes to hiring process and things like that. But my question to you is, why did this become such a factor of your life's work? Why does this become such an important part of your life's work?
I think because I find that a lot more people are unhappy with the experience than we would imagine, right? And so this drives addiction. This drives, um, um, like again, disease development. There's a lot more people who are having psychological issues, mental health issues, breakdowns, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and that's because a lot of the things that are being that a lot of the ideologies that have helped us to even arrive at accepting, let's say, work culture, like you just now mentioned work culture, the idea that we have to go into a workplace and demure and like play down our true feelings about certain people, certain things. We may be a part of an organization that does things that are not in alignment with our ideas of morality, like what we think is right, but we need money to live, and so we just kind of acquiesce to, at least survive, right? It's all a lot of this is, most of this is tied to survival, if not all of it. And so
Mm.
then we put these things and we're showing up in these ways in the world every day, day in and day out. And we're not, our spirit, or in parts of our nervous system and our bodies are not actually being authentic. They're not being real, and they're doing things that are antithetical or like opposed to what we truly may feel is right or safe or whatever. And so it became important because I feel like there's so many people need to understand that if that I feel like that if people understood the ways that societies are constructed and some of the things that are pumped into society to create the life that we just think is so normal, then I think that people would have more um, people would be empowered to make a change. That's
How
what.
many how many of us, if you were to just throw out a number, a percentage anywhere from 0 to 100, what percentage of us would you say are living in existence that is they're not entirely happy with the decisions that they're making on a daily basis with the things that they're having to do, whether it's going to work, whether it's raising children, whether it's, are we doing these things with disdain, are we doing these things, how many people are truly living in their happiness based upon the construction?
I don't know. I mean, I have never actually thought about it in those like mathematical terms.
Right.
I, I feel like that, but I would be safe to say that most people are not living a life that's in alignment with what they feel like their true sense of happiness is, right? I feel like that again. Um, in most people are responding to senses of fear. Like, people who consider themselves Christian are afraid to go to hell. So, a lot of them are like act like, and then you find like there's a difference in between what people actually do in the shadow, in the dark, right, underneath, and who they perform themselves to be, right. So all of us have a mask or a performance personality, right, or and which is reflective of like who we think ourselves to be. And most people, because we've been socialized to be good or to be acceptable by God or a lot of these like different other types of concepts, we our psyche can only um, or primarily um, uses positive things to construct our self narrative. So like, I'm like let's say somebody has poor boundaries, right? And they don't know how to say no. They may call themselves giving or I'm too giving, right? Because it's easier to say I'm too giving than to say like I lack boundaries and the ability to say no because I want to be accepted or loved or whatever, right? But those are part and parcel of the same thing. Like you overgive because you don't feel like that if you like have boundaries and say no to people, people will stay, like right. And so I feel like that.
I was one of those. I was one of those people, but I don't know if my decision to be a overgiver was based on any necessary insecurity that I had. I just know that I was always saying yes to things, and I would regret it down the line, especially as it came closer to me having to fulfill that promise that I made. It's like if someone says, can you help me move? And it's like, I know I really don't want to help this person move. I know that in the back of my heart. But my heart says, yeah, I'll help you move. What day, what time? I'll try to see if I'm available. And then as it comes closer to that date, I'm starting to now internalize all of that anxiety, all of that stress that I took on from saying yes when I should have just been. And I hate to say it, but honesty is something that came later in life for me. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying I was a liar per se. It's just that now I'm really comfortable being honest. And
yeah,
sometimes people never come to that conclusion. But
right.
that's me now.
And I think that it's not like necessarily, like a lot of those more acceptable forms of manipulation um, are not. It's not malicious, right? It's like, yeah, I do want you to, because it could be in those moments you just want to, you do. So there's a part of you that is a helper, you're a loving person, but then there's a part of you that also like maybe has constructed this idea that to be easygoing or to be likable, right? You want to be likable. We all want to be likable.
Right.
And to do this, I need to like give of myself because I think that there's a way to say, look, I would love to do that for you, but I definitely don't feel like that I'm going to be able to
And
do
you
that.
know what? You know what? You don't have no problem with that. That's one thing I know about you. You don't have no problem with that. You will say, no, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not coming. I'm sorry. I
with
enjoyed this
love,
time on the phone with you, but no, I'm not doing that. And
with
I
love.
always with love, with love. Let me ask you this. One of the key aspects of social construction is language. And as of late, language has definitely been thrust into the forefront of our conversation. So, what does language mean to you as far as its association with social construction, and why has that become such, once again, a hot button topic or issue uh, as of late?
Well, I think it's always been that way. Again, developmental ideologies like will use words like civilized, right? So then you think of like civilized versus uncivilized, and then like what's associated with civilization, right? Is like it's a more advanced way of living, a higher morally like correct or right. It's almost like this, and also too woven into the idea of civilization and like and development is this idea that like humans have to be developing in a certain way, right? We don't say it, but we think like, oh, the natural progression of society is that it gets more complex. People need a financial system, they need a political system, blah blah blah, and these are things that are embedded inside of the developmental ideologies that shape our consciousness, right? And so language has always been important, right? So then it's like, oh, well, don't nobody want to be uncivilized. So if uncivilized means like your indigenous religion, your indigenous way of
Thank you.
doing food or doing culture, right? If all of those things are defined as uncivilized, and then that means that they're backward and they're not to be aspired to, then it would again naturally, tend people towards what you're calling civilized. And if that civilization is a reflection of some other people's culture, then we will emulate those other people's culture, which is something that indigenous and black and brown folk have been up against for years, right? Is that this idea that almost sometimes explicitly, but a lot of times implicitly in the language that we're using, is this idea that we need to be like white people, we need to be like Europeans, we need to practice the religion that they brought to us, we need to be Christians, and because all these things are good, and if you're a good Christian person, right, all of these things are, some of it again is woven deeply into the language that we're using to express what it means to be a good citizen, what does it mean to be a good human, good, right? And so language has always been important. I think that it's becoming a little bit more of a topic because people are understanding how language is used to shape the psyche, how
But
language is.
one of the things you pointed out though earlier was that these seeds are planted, and you're talking about you made a correlation between someone planting a seed in the 30s and it coming into fruition in the 90s, or coming into fruition in the 2000s. Like, is it that serious? Is people gravitating towards the information that you choose to groom per se? Is it that serious that you put it in and then you have a 50-year, 60-year timeline of which society then adjusts to that
Absolutely.
thing? Because it seems like right now it's just an explosion of of thought. It's an explosion of language. It's like an explosion all the way around. Like, what's going on? Why now?
Well, I think that we have a lot more, like we have technology, we have social media, and we have an easier way to be in contact with a lot more opinions, right? But they've always existed. We didn't know what people in uh, California thought about what's going on with somebody. We didn't even know what was going on with celebrities and like their inner, their intimate lives or whatever, right? Nor did a lot of times did we care, right? Again, and that's another thing. We've been groomed to put our eyes on these people and be interested in their lives, and they're making money, and the way that feeded into our consciousness is that if you're making money then you must be doing something right, right? And again, it's
Right.
not always explicitly said, but implicitly it's like, oh, if these people are making millions of dollars, they're doing something right. You can have people who the only thing that they have to offer is like, oh, I make millions of dollars, so then they can create workshops and conferences and be telling people how to be a millionaire or whatever, right? Because the implication is that if you did it, you did something right, and we all want to get there. And so I think that it's not necessarily that there are more opinions. Well, maybe because there are more people on the planet, but it's just that we now have all of these hubs where these opinions can be expressed, and we can have a relationship with everybody's opinion, and everybody got something to say. And I mean, it goes back to the old adage: opinions are like buttholes. Everybody got one, and that is true.
Let's get
Uh-huh.
to the nuts. Let's get to the nuts and bolts about this social construction, though. Right now, social construction ideas include gender, they include race, they include sexuality, beauty standards, social class. All of that. Why does it even matter in the grand scheme of things? Why does it matter? How is that going to affect or impact society in a way that it will benefit by us being so concerned with these things that to some just feel trivial? Why does that even matter?
I
Why
think
does
I think
gender
well,
matter? Why does sexuality matter? Why does any of that matter?
why does any of what matter again?
Gender, sexuality, race, beauty
Oh,
standards. Why does any of that matter?
well, I think that it matters for multiple reasons. One is that it's easier to well, it's about control and extraction of human energy resource, right? Like, um, it's almost like the concept of American gods, where the gods were things that humans imbued their energy with, right? So there's a couple of Jesuses and technology and sex and money and all of these things, because if humans put their energy into something, it becomes a god, right? And
Mm.
so these identities and these constructs, these concepts help to again guide the energy. So then it's like, oh, we're giving our energy to Jesus because we've taught that Jesus is, or Muhammad, or Buddha, or money, or whatever, right? Or Beyonce, or whatever, right? So it's
Don't
easy.
talk about Beyonce though. Don't
Oh,
let's not include Beyonce in this.
but see, that's the thing, you can't even talk about it because it's a deity. People get all like upset, right?
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what happens. It's important because it helps to map onto the consciousness of humans that something is important to them or about them, and it's something that I feel like that the society can then use to extract energy, to initiate energy, to ignite energy. So then if you have black people and then you have white people, or you have Asian people, or whatever, like however you have mapped onto the consciousness that these people should identify racially, ethnically, culturally, whatever, then it's like it can be easier to then say, um, to incite unrest, to stage unrest, to have to then have, the media pump up a George Floyd situation.
Don't you believe that with us having all of these quote unquote differences, it feeds that narrative that leads to us having civil unrest? I mean, so for us now being concerned with how someone else thinks, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, here's the difference, let's draw the line in the sand, this is the difference between me and you, so now we're at odds, and we don't even know why we're at odds, and the powers that be above us, they continue to, let me tell you what happened to me the other day. I went to this coffee shop here in the West End, black owned coffee shop. I don't even drink coffee, but I went there to support because I support all, black owned or minority businesses. So I went in there and I ordered something. I waited for my drink. About 5 minutes later, my drink came, and the individual that handed it to me, I said, "Thank you, sir," and I grabbed my drink, and it hit me right at that very moment that I had misgendered this individual. And prior to that, I didn't eat, like, I stay out of those conversations. You know what I'm saying? Conserve your energy. I'm not trying to feed into conversations that don't in any way necessarily impact me. The moment I realized that I misgendered that individual, I could not live that down. I walked out of the building. I wanted to go back and apologize. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm overthinking it. And then I'm saying to myself, my God, I don't have the energy for this. I don't have the power for this. Like, why does this matter? I could see that individual's heart drop the moment that I said, thank you, sir. Now here I am being my normal, natural, cordial, self, thinking that I'm, sir, and this person identified as ma'am. So now I'm beating myself up, and obviously I'm still beating myself up because I'm bringing this thing to you and explaining it to you, and I don't understand. Like, does it matter? Should I be concerned with the fact that this individual identifies as this? Should I now have to take this on in
Well,
my?
I mean, you are. So then, I mean, I guess maybe should is maybe not as useful as are you, and then you are, and that's okay, right? I think. I have a question. Did the person correct you, or did they say something?
They did not. I could just see their heart drop the moment that I referred to them as sir. I could just see it in their eyes. They turned away from me and they walked away.
Okay.
And I could see in the emotional display what I had done. Now, naturally, your suggestion might be that I would have gone back in and said, you know what, I apologize. I did not take that step. I walked out. I continued to be embarrassed on the way to the car, got in the car, drove off, and haven't stopped thinking about it since. So, what do
I
you
mean,
do?
I don't think. I guess for me, my opinion would be that you go in and apologize. I think that those types of things can foster conversation next time. Like, hey, like how do you identify? Like if there's no tag, what I'm saying, like how do you identify? How do you gender yourself? Um, because I think that it does impact you, and I think that gender impacts us all because you also have a gender, right? You identify as a man, as a male, right? Um, and so you also have a gender, and so gender and gender conversations affect you, and the impact of your behavior affects you. So I think that you're just dealing with like, oh, although that wasn't my intent, this is the impact, and I think that that is powerful because I don't think that a lot of people can stay in the impact of their behavior, and a lot of people, to circumvent that shame that you feel, the guilt, and all of those like feelings that can again be embodied, you can literally feel them and they impact your physiology. People try to like circumvent those by focusing on their intent, versus like just being like, oh, the impact of my behavior was that like I may have made somebody feel like they weren't seen, you know what I'm saying, in the way that they want to be seen. and that feels a certain sort of way, I would beat myself up about it because it wasn't intentional. But I would just like in the future either facilitate that conversation or what I'm saying, like just change the gender, because it's like if you didn't have that conversation, you don't even know if they don't identify as, they may not identify as she or they or them. They may, so it's like you can just open up that conversation.
Well, one of the areas staying within the social construction is sexuality and how it encompasses a broad spectrum of characteristics, behavior, feelings. Um, and I want to stay on this subject because I know how passionate you are about this. I know this is something that we've talked about, numerous times.
Yes.
So, how then does sexuality play a role in social construction? Once again, um, why does it matter? Is it because most people, most individuals, most humans are not in tune with their true sexuality, or what? Why is it such an important topic to you?
I think because it goes back to this to the thing that it creates a lot of discomfort. Like a lot of people are shamed. I feel like that it's been colonized, and by colonized I mean that it's been moralized. It's been made into a thing that make that people like have been socialized and taught that they have to think about in relation to themselves and their behavior. Right? You have a lot of people who like you have a lot of and I don't mean to be over explicit, but I mean we're talking about sexuality. And so you hit, maybe let's say for instance you have men who experience anal pleasure but who are not attracted to men, right? They're not attracted to men, but they experience anal pleasure and they want to enjoy that, right? But because they enjoy that or because they want to enjoy that with women or with other genders, they have to think of themselves, and then people are like, "Well, are you this or are you that?" Right? And so that's to me, that it creates a lot of discomfort and confusion in ways that are not necessary, right? It's not, and so then for me, it becomes important to free people of that and to have people to understand that your sexual behavior has very little to do with who you are as a human, right? It's just behavior. It's like liking blueberries. It's like liking strawberries. You just like something and you enjoy something, and the only reason that it matters it's such a big thing is because we've been socialized that it does, and we have accepted certain ideologies that make us feel like that our behavior in that part of our lives means something so essential about who we are. And that's not necessarily how a lot of indigenous and brown and black societies and cultures and ideologies, treated that part of our lives. Like it's like just because you behave a certain way sexually does not mean like for instance the term homosexuality or homosexual and heterosexual was developed by a German psychologist in the late 1800s. Before that, there was no term to describe what it meant for you to be born um, with a certain genitalia, and then like to have sex with a person that carries a certain
I,
genitalia. Like
and pause. I find that very interesting because you know uh, I'm just learning this. I'm just learning this because even from the moment I was born to the moment I knew how to actually converse till now, I only knew one thing. You know what I'm saying? So for someone to tell me that the idea and concept of what I knew predated that by 100 plus years is like mind blowing to me because I only know what I know. And if I didn't go into the area of study, to where it became an expertise, then that's what I know.
right, and I mean that's the thing. That's a part of the socialization, is that then we're only exposed to what people want us to know, right? So then specifically when we're in a very religious context, then they only want us to know what they want us to know, because if we know something else, then we may not align ourselves with what we're being exposed to, right? We may still always know it or carry it as something that's sacred because it was what we taught, but we can also know something else, right? And so I think that um, one of the reasons that's so important to me is because um, I feel like that people can experience much more pleasure and joy on this planet whenever they're not um, tied into this idea that who they are um, um, in these ways has to be fit into a moralistic framework. Like or I'm right or I'm wrong, or I'm gay or I'm straight, or I'm bi, or I'm all of these things. It's too. It can be too much, and it can create a lot of stress for people. And I think that it leads to a lot of the mental health issues that that a lot of people are experiencing because it's so, it's so much. It's so much shame. Like if again, if a man, if a person that identifies as a male or was assigned male at birth, experiences certain pleasure, like he can't even admit it to himself, which then leads to certain types of addictions again because the shame, we have to mitigate the shame. So it's like, well, I know I enjoy this. My body's asking me for this. My body enjoys this, but I should be. I'm wrong, and right, and so this all of
But
this leads to shame.
at its core, and I think you alluded to it earlier. At its core, I guess the question becomes what you're doing behind closed doors. Yeah, absolutely does not matter, because no one knows. The fact that it's brought from behind closed doors into our ether, into our conversations. I guess you have one segment of the population that is asking the question of, well, why? Why do I have to be exposed to this information if I feel like it doesn't necessarily apply to me? Is there a sense of freedom? Is there a sense of release for me to be able to have conversations about how I feel about what it is that I'm doing behind closed doors that now I want to bring it out on the world stage? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, um, is this discussion, I mean, we're enjoying this discussion right now, but is this discussion going to in any way change the trajectory of uh, human existence? Like, why do these conversations have to keep coming up? And I'm asking that almost facetiously because I know, like I said, once again, these are very important topics to you, and this is why we're conversing about it. Why is it important that we have these conversations? Why is it important that it be on a level platform with all other conversations that we have?
Because I think that it's two things. People want to just be free. People want to be seen, and people don't want to hide. I think that fundamentally, the desire to hide is always, in my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion, it's always a result of some type of shame that's been planted somewhere. There's nothing that we have to hide that we don't have some shame around, right? And now there is a healthy amount of fear. I mean, shame, right? But it becomes pathological whenever there's so many different things that we cannot even admit to ourselves. So I think that it is important because if you are taught that liking, um, like experiencing anal pleasure is wrong for a man, right? And let's say again, you like to experience that with your wife, right?
Right.
So it's like you're experiencing this with a man. So in no way, shape, or form, even if we accept, the paradigm of sexuality that we have been exposed to, that you're not a gay person, you're not a homosexual because you don't like men, but you can't even allow yourself to explore that. And then a woman probably wouldn't allow herself to, give you that because she's been also socialized that a man shouldn't like that and that his body shouldn't desire that, but it does, right? So I think that it matters because we internalize those modes, we internalize those messages, and then we have dissonance inside of ourselves, which causes discomfort and mental health issues, and our psyche splitting off and trying to find ways to mitigate the shame and deal with the shame and suppress the desire. All of these things create such. I feel like it creates so much trauma and so much. Um, Discomfort in the experience. And so it's important to me because I want for people to know that this stuff does not have to matter. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not a conversation to have. And it doesn't mean that it's not something that you can be honest about, right? But I feel like that if there's more spaces to be honest about it, then you'd have less people driving themselves to addiction, less people having to drink in order to enjoy certain parts of their sexual experience, less people having to be out of their mind in order to enjoy certain parts of their sexual desire, right? Less people having to think about, like, fundamentally, who am I because I experience anal pleasure, or a woman who experiences attraction to another woman. Am I a lesbian? Like, you don't have to think about any of that. Like, it's just what you experience in this moment.
It's
And
who
I
you it's who you are.
part of who you. It's just a part of like your behavior. I don't even think it's a part. I don't think it's who you are. I don't think that our sexuality is who we are. I think that it's just a part of your behavior. Like again, I think it can be as innocuous as liking a strawberry. Is liking a strawberry who you are? No, it's just what you do. And I think that sexuality can be that innocuous.
Uh, Interesting analogy. I like strawberries.
Right. Like this is
what does and I know this is I don't even know if you have an answer for this, but what is normal to you? What does the word normal mean to you? And I want a brief answer on that.
you want to what?
A brief answer on that.
Normal is a construct that was created in order to divide us. So I feel like that there is no such thing as normal, but the construct that was created. There's no such thing. The universe is too vast for there to be a normal. Normal is just a collection of measurements, and then a mathematical equation applied to those collection of measurements that then is used as a standard to make again to make people feel like that now have I'm not good enough. I have to, live up to or chase the standard. So I think that normal is just a construct that's created to again do that work of socializing us.
Let's talk about some of your healing work. Let's talk about that. That's something that I I've known about you since the beginning of our long standing friendship and association and brotherhood. Tell me a little bit about the healing work. Who is it for? And what type of issues or what are you addressing with this healing work?
The healing work is just about helping people. Helping myself is for me. It's really for me, I guess. At the end of the day, right? There's a part of me that feels good when I feel like that I'm helping people to get something that I feel like that they need, right? And the people who feel like that they need what I wanna give can come to me and get it. And so the healing work is just about again helping people to understand that there is nothing wrong with you. There's nothing to be there's not a lot to be um, admitted. There's not a lot to be said unless you want to say it. There's a lot to be honest about, but that there's not you don't owe society or other people um, an identity to be respected. You don't owe people anything other than respect. What like niceness, if it feels, if um, But I feel like that's the healing work. It's like really getting people to decolonize their mindsets around identity and the ways that we show up in this world, so that we can create more joy and less like um, obsession with like who am I or what does this mean and I like this and this means something about me and then I believe this and this means something about me and then like you said, then I'm different than Adasa because I believe this but then he believes that, so then we're not the same type of people. And it's like, I feel like there is a way for us to respect the fact that like, yeah, maybe we don't believe in the same thing, but that doesn't make us different humans, because at the core.
Why do people associate safe spaces with weakness? Why is it not looked upon as someplace that I'm comfortable uh, and I can exhibit strength through that? Why is it looked at as I'm weak because I need something to lean on in order to feel better about myself?
Yeah, I think that as we get more deeper into like pop psychology and like people, everybody, like you said, having an opinion, everybody got something to say. Everybody has an idea of like what's right for other people. Then we get into like people pathologizing and problematizing the ways like natural things about humans, right? We are herd animals. There's a there's a large part of our joy that and our sense of safety that comes from knowing that people around us in our community are okay with us, right? And so I do think that those types of things can become things that stifle our growth. And I think that that's when we can have a conversation around it. But like needing Adasa to be proud or happy with me, to feel safe about our relationship, and when I'm around him I feel safe to know that he's pleased with me. That's not pathological, that's just human, right? And I think that a lot of people have associate those type of things with weakness because we are in an increasingly individualistic culture, and there's a lot of energy that's been pumped into socializing us to think that doing something on your own and your own strength is like the pinnacle of achievement. And so while that has its place, and there are moments where that is powerful, and it is powerful to do things on your own, and it is powerful to have your own, to be able to access your a sense of inner strength, and to divorce yourself of what everybody's telling you, and to find and to discover and to develop an idea of who you are on your own. Also, too, it can be just as powerful to blend that with, well, who do people think I am, and that awareness of like, how what's the impact of my behavior, how do I impact people, not to be encumbered by it, not to be limited by it, but just to have the awareness of like the fact that I can come off a certain way, or people can have a tendency to experience me in a certain way. Doesn't mean that that's the truth, all the truth of who I am, but it can be just something that I know and I'm aware of. And then I can also blend that with my own work to discover who I feel like I am in another sense. And so
I
I
think
think
loving yourself is a age old adage that we've been attempting to instill into the mindset of human beings on a daily basis, that you have to love yourself. You can't, I said this before, you can't love someone else until you love yourself. But the reality is that a good majority of us don't even understand what loving ourselves consists of. They don't understand the context of what it is to love yourself. And so I'm hoping that through various conversations of this sort, that we can kind of get to the core of that, because ultimately, um, that's where I'm at, and that's what brought me to the place where I am currently. And it's an ongoing process. It's a constant state of growth, of understanding. But in parting, I'd like you to give us a good parting word. Of course, this is the first of many conversations that you and I will have. Of course, you know that. We have so much more to converse about. But give us a parting word. Tell us a little bit about, what you have on deck, what you have available, and we'll go from there.
um, soon I'll be starting up my touch therapy cuddle parties again, which is about just like helping people to do communication therapy work, touch therapy work, get the touch needs met, love on each other non-sexually. I do music, of course, and I have this song that I'm looking to release this year called Church, which is about like self love, like this idea that like we go to church and we go to these buildings to worship a deity, but like our bodies are actually a place where they also can be accessed and worshipped, and we are just drops of water from the great big ocean, and so this is church, right? And that's what I say in the song. This is church, right? And
Ultimate
so
church. Yes.
say what?
No, I was saying this is the ultimate church. I was agreeing
Absolutely.
with you.
Yeah, so I have that coming up, and I guess I have life coaching services that are available to people. If you find me, Raheem Kashon, as it's written in my right there on the corner. Um, that if you search that, Google that, you can find me. If you want some services, or if you want to talk, if you really want to dig deeper, because the parting word that I would leave is that a huge part of what we consider to be self love, or what I consider to be self love, is being able to meet what I consider to be what Carl Jung defined as the shadow, right? And that shadow part of us is the part of us that our psyches and conscious don't want to admit, or don't want to look at about ourselves, because there's a lot of shame and embarrassment and like dissonance there. And I feel like that self love, a huge part of the process of self love, is just being able to see that stuff and to bring it into your consciousness and know that you can still offer a whole bunch of value to people, and obviously you do, because people still want to be in your life, but that these things are also true. Like, for instance, I can be controlling, I can be a know-it-all, I can be self-righteous, I can be
All of
destructive,
those things. That's
all of those.
definitely.
and I know that about myself, and I still know that I add immense value to people's lives. But there are moments and times where like that is a very palpable part of my energy. Is a know it all. Is a like a, I'm not wrong. Is a you know puffed up, lifted. All of those things, right?
You ain't gotta tell me. I know who you are.
But
I know who, you ain't
I'll
gotta
say
tell me.
I'll say it like this. I'll say it like this. In the words of the great Maya Angelou, we are more alike than unalike.
Who, me? Nah,
Yes.
nah. Yo, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. The time just flew by, and you know what? I actually am on my way over to the church right now. I got to take care of some business.
Go ahead. Go
But
ahead.
and we have some music to do, bro. We've been talking about doing some music for how
Yeah.
long? How long? We
I
got to get
know.
busy.
We got
Yeah.
to get. Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much, man, for joining me, man.
Thank you
Thank
for having
you.
me.
Thank you. And I look forward to doing it again real soon.
All right, brother.
Raheem Kashon. Peace.
Peace.